Okay, welcome to the late night chat. Late here, early elsewhere. Let's see. JCMA, can you post that? And let's see. How about Ronnie reading that? If it works on your computer.
Yeah, it's on my. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can. Okay, because I have a new setup here, so I haven't really tested it out yet. But if you can hear me, that's good. Uh, Dear folks of Baba, for most Baba lovers, regret about many things they've done in their past naturally casts a shadow over their present moment. And often it is with their present consciousness that they judge themselves, which isn't really fair because they have grown since then and they probably wouldn't do such things with what they know now. And in condemning themselves, they bring a feeling of unworthiness upon themselves. There is a simple quote by Thomas Leonard which says, "Give up all hope of a better past." How does this state of regret persist? It is often because we try to resolve our past wrongs, shortcomings, failings, etc., with our mind. But the mind is too superficial. It doesn't take one deeper than guilt. Guilt lacks the depth to fathom the root causes of our weaknesses. Guilt's method is like clipping off the tops of weeds, which doesn't get at the root. And so the weed sprouts anew. I find if I feel guilty and it persists for days, I am likely going to do the selfish thing again. And guilt invites shame, which is not really an emotion, but a mental attitude. It is a self judgment about how bad we are or have been. The only thing that wipes away our weaknesses and bypasses guilt and shame is remorse. Remorse is of the heart. And if we are going to change our behavior, it is at the heart level. We feel the sting of remorse for having been weak or selfish, and then we turn to our heart, which is backed by our soul, to give us the strength and courage to change our behavior. Guilt and shame are really two subtle forms of self preoccupation, but remorse, even sometimes in magnifying its intensity, aims to make a selfless change in ourselves. It can burn up our selfish tendencies. Once, when I asked Erich, one of Baba's most intimate mandali, how he experienced Baba's forgiveness, he said, "Most people, when they do something unkind and selfish, make a plea to God to be forgiven. They persist until they feel some relief. This is what is conventionally done. But with Baba, when you do something unkind and selfish, the remorse you feel for having done this is the sign that you've already been forgiven. As long as we feel no remorse and go on justifying our unkind behavior, there's no room for Baba to forgive. Baba has said sincere repentance does not mean perpetuating grief for the wrongs, but in resolving in the future to avoid those deeds which call forth remorse. As I gathered from Darwin, he recommended taking ample time feeling as deeply as possible any wrong we have done and imagine it flowing energetically to Baba. He would say, the deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. How have you experienced Baba's forgiveness in your own life? What wrongs have you done in the past that still persist as guilt and shame today? What methods with Baba have been successful in freeing yourself from past selfishness. Has the empathy you feel today in relation to others helped to soften the self condemnation you may have felt about your past? Baba has said that his method with us is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. When asked why 1 step back, Baba replied that it annihilates our pride of progress as we go along. What do you do when that happen during your day or week trigger past regretful experiences? How do you bring Baba into the picture in his love, Jeff?
Thank you, Ronnie. Well
Welcome.
read. Uh, Anybody feel like venturing out on this topic and expose us, to your guilt and shame and everything? No. Anyone have anything that they feel like sharing and the work that they've done in trying to overcome, say, guilt and shame? I hate to call on Tony, I mean, just right off. Oh, good.
I was just about to raise my hand.
Oh, good, good.
um, yeah, the this actually what comes to mind for this is Zeke and I did a 9-day intensive training with Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, and it's really based on listening past the ego in oneself and in others. What he called the jackal voice, which is complaining and criticizing and so on, to one's feelings and the needs that those feelings connect with. And they're happy feelings, they're joyful, fulfilled, and there are limiting feelings and sad feelings, but the feelings are always related to a need, and when that need is being met, then it's one of the more positive feelings that you experience. And when that need is not being met, it tends to be one of those other less positive feelings. But either way, if you tune in and really experience what it is you're feeling at the moment, or tune in to the person who may be attacking you, what it is they're feeling in the moment, and what need of theirs is not being met, because sometimes the feeling is obscured, you can have a basis for a very deep communication. And the same thing in your relationship with Baba. But there was one thing he talked about, and I was having difficulties with my daughter at the time, who was a teenager, and it was just communication difficulties off the charts. And he immediately tuned into issues of autonomy. He was very insightful. But he said basically there are 4 things that masquerade as feelings, but they are what he called life alienating reactions. And they were guilt, anger, shame, and depression. And that those 4 were not feelings at all. They were things going on in the mind that were twisting your access to your own feelings and your needs. And the way I remembered it was something that Clara once said to me: "Don't get gassed, Dad. Like, don't get all full of yourself." And I thought, yeah, GASD, guilt, anger, shame, and depression. And so what I do when that sort of thing comes up is try to connect with, okay, what need of mine is not being met now? And what's the feeling that I am blocking? Thinking that I can get that need met by just pouring out anger or sinking in depression or shame or guilt, and then try to connect with the feeling and the need. And even if the need is not being met, the fact that you're tuning into what's, the way he called it, what's alive in you at that moment, which you'll always find in your feelings, enables you to begin to transcend that and then get in touch with the need, which is always, the way I have come to understand it, is a real need. It's a real need. It's something that in your connection with Baba, it is a need, and for some reason you're not experiencing the fulfillment of that need. Um, and so it's to kind of focus on what's real. Um, now guilt, yeah, we'll make a whole big trip about what something you did and you shouldn't have done it and all that. And yes, remorse is the real feeling in that case. And you're not, and the need might be the need to live up to your own standards, to live up to your own sense of who you want to be and what's right and wrong or whatever. But you don't get there through guilt. You get there through remorse, as your write-up says. Honestly feeling the remorse and then connecting to the deeper thing that got lost in the action that led you to the guilt. So this was an easy one to jump in right away, and I don't even have to share the depths of my being. It's great. J. Bob.
Beautiful, beautiful, Tony. Excellent. Yeah. And and basically you're saying that that guilt and shame are really distracting us from really dealing with the real need, which is to get into our heart with Baba and not get caught up at just tied up at a mental level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Rich.
Well, I usually talk a little too long, so I'll try to make this brief and short, but my greatest grief, you might say, was all of like the TV show of old times, all of the chaos I brought into the world with me. And those around me, especially, of course, my parents and some others experienced it. Fortunately, Baba caught up with me early on. So the rest of my life has really been spent, or I don't know if spent's the right word, but lived with Baba, sort of that same old line, reeling me in, just very slowly reeling me in, one step at a time, one place, different people, different friends. But it's been in giant leaps. It hasn't been really like one little thing at a time. It's been in giant leaps of awareness. But the remorse that I felt over the chaos that I brought originally has stayed with me. And I can only give that to Baba. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. A lot of us share, we know exactly what you're talking about. Okay.
Paula, go ahead.
Paula, you're on.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi. One of the I have an issue right now in my life that's really in my face, and I've been married twice and divorced twice, and then I was married for 14 years, my second marriage, and then we were divorced for like 15 years, and in the interim, my ex-husband, he had a relationship with someone else for 10 years, and then she died of cancer in 2017 or 16. And so the week I had surgery for breast cancer, she had died in Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York City. And then so we have my second husband and we had a son together, my youngest son. And I don't know, I just had a lot of compassion for him because I knew that I don't know what it was, but whatever. He ended up moving down here, and we got back together again, and we were together for about 7 years. And then at one point he started to like physically kind of decompensate. And this is it's a very difficult thing for me because I could not because he wouldn't help himself and he got very passive and all that. We never did get remarried, but it was oh gosh, my battery's going low. I hope it does. I hope it stays with me. I forgot about that. But anyway, he moved down here and we were together for about yeah, I guess there were 3 good years, and then he started decompensating and I just couldn't do it. I didn't like the person I was becoming. I couldn't care for him anymore because he wouldn't really help himself very well. And so I did so much work getting him medical help and connected with different agencies and getting him to doctors and just everything. And but I could not do it anymore. It wasn't working anymore. I was just not liking the person I was becoming. And he had every right in the world to be exactly who he was and how he was. And who am I to demand that someone change or whatever? So we found him. He worked through an agency, and we found him some housing, an apartment for himself, which he's been in for a lot of years. But um, he has medical issues, and so he will end up in the hospital with really bad infections. And this past week, I was in Iowa for 2 weeks, and that's why I haven't been at the Sunday meeting. And my son called me in Iowa and said, that his dad was not doing well, and I told them that his dad had called and said he had fallen. So he's in the hospital, and he has COVID, and he had a heart problem, and I mean, just a lot of things were falling apart. But what I want to say is I have I feel like I, in a way, betrayed him in this life because I couldn't do it. I just could not care for him. I was going to die. I myself felt like I was hospitalized twice for like respiratory problems and asthma attacks. I couldn't breathe, and I physically felt like I was going to die myself if I kept on. So I have a lot of remorse about the situation, and yet I couldn't do it. And I've had a lot of different. I can be a compassionate presence from a distance, absolutely. I'm actually his power of attorney for healthcare, and I care about him. We had a lot of history together. We had a son together, and I don't know. It's been really, really hard. I don't know if anyone else has been in this situation before, um, and could like speak of it if they have had a similar experience. But I've had a really hard time forgiving myself for my limitation in loving. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So anyway, that's that's really up in my face right now. But this recent hospitalization, he's still in the hospital, and he's probably going to have to go to rehab after. And but this is a level above what the seriousness of what he's gone through before. So anyhow, it's very, very difficult because he has a lot of confusion. And anyway,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, if you brought that out, and that will probably be, other people will probably share similar.
Okay.
Yeah, good, beautiful. I mean, not
Uh,
beautiful, but what I mean is beautifully expressed. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry if I was too wordy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a definite concern. That's your heart. We got the East Bay here.
Ron.
Actually, I'm in the woods down, Jeff.
Hi, Rob.
Anyhow, hey, Paul. You reminded me of an anecdote that my cousin, I have this cousin. She was my youngest cousin. The first time I met her, she was 2 years old in the crib. And then the next time I got in touch with her, she was, in her 20s or 30s, or I can't remember exactly how old she was. but she needed some help and financially. So I contributed some money with some of the other first cousins. But I got in touch with her, and I won't go into the story, the whole story of how she came to Baba, but she came to Baba. It was not that many people that I've, connected with have done that. So here's the thing about her was that when I got in touch with her, she was separated or maybe even divorced from her husband, and they had two boys. Now, the husband was going to be suing for custody of the two boys, and I think anybody connected would have known, even though he had a job and made money, uh, and she had no job and was actually, asking for donations and receiving some charity. But she was the person to be the parent for these two boys. And as it turned out, she got the custody, which was a relief. I'm not exactly sure all the details of how that happened, but she used to be in touch with me quite often. A lot of times she would just call me up and ask me all kinds of questions. And I would often say, why don't you ask Baba about that? And, and that seemed to satisfy her. And she started to call me less about all these kind of things that were really her responsibility to come up with answers for and solutions. Uh, and so at one point, this ex-husband of hers had a nervous breakdown. And this is quite a few years after she had come to Baba. Well, maybe about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And and it turns out that he had I think he also had gotten divorced from this woman that he had remarried. I don't think they were together again anymore. But he approached my cousin for help, and she let him live in her house with her husband. Now she had gotten remarried, and the two boys, and until he recovered. And then he moved out after he recovered from his nervous breakdown. I thought, now, I mean, there were miraculous things that Baba did for my cousin,
Wow.
and she went in for it.
Yeah.
She must have, because those are kind of amazing things when you take in your ex-husband who kind of left you high and dry and all that. Not to say I know why or anything like that. I didn't know the
Yeah.
details of it. So I just thought I would bring that up about how Baba can find us the solutions and direct us to carrying them out.
I just want to say I spent some time with a friend that lives in India now, Jeffrey Beadle, today. We had breakfast this morning, and he was telling me about somebody in India that told him that when you're having a problem, to literally take a picture of Baba and literally put the problem right, like put like take a card of Baba or something like that and literally give it to Baba in that way in front of a picture. And I had never even thought about that. I've never thought about that. And it just sounded like such a wonderful idea. So I'm going to be trying that.
Yeah, that's one of Erwin Luck's.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
Erwin Luck told him. He heard that
Yeah.
from Erwin Luck. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it.
Anyone else going to venture out? Well, looks like I'll tell you my little sojourn with guilt, shame, and remorse. Before Baba, when I was in my college, I wrote a paper and there was some plagiarism in it, and I got caught. And I felt horrible, terrible. I I lost my scholarship. I mean, I had a full ride, everything paid for. I lost that all. I was so ashamed. this is the worst thing I think I'd ever done. And I didn't tell anybody. I was too ashamed to even share it. I'm sure my parents found out, but this happened. And then some years later, I came to Bob and all that. And but this was always there. I mean, the shame and the embarrassment. I mean, it was there. And so some years later, I was out visiting my parents who lived in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I was in a park with a close friend, and for the first time, I opened up this whole thing, and I was sharing it. I was like kind of sobbing and just torture. It was horrible. I mean, it all came over me. I mean, it was, and luckily, this person was uh, compassionate and empathetic, and really let it all come out. But then my parents were walking by the the park from a distance, and I saw them, and I, oh my God, I'm no shape to see anybody. But luckily my dad, hollered over saying, "Hey, do you want to play frisbee?" Because we were in this little park. So that was an excuse. I could get out of there. I ran back to the apartment, and I went upstairs, and into the bathroom was where the frisbee was. I reached down with the frisbee, and when I stood up, I happened to see myself in the mirror, and the torture on my face. I saw, and the word, what I thought was, no one should ever feel that way about themselves. It was, I was horrified at the torture, that I was inflicting upon myself. And I felt such compassion, and I and forgiveness. I had to forgive myself. And that moment, that's when compassion and forgiveness really dawned deeply in me. And that's kind of stayed with me for the rest of my life. But Baba gave me a view of what I was doing to myself, And but it was interesting because in my case, I had to forgive myself before I could receive and accept Baba's forgiveness. It wasn't I tried, but it really required me to forgive myself. So that was my sojourn into forgiveness, and it, like I say, it stood by me. I mean, I've the 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 compassion and the forgiveness that Baba had me experience there for myself has helped me with all the other people in my life. So there's my little story. So I went out there, and we got to get someone else now. Ah,
Deborah. Deborah.
Deborah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for that story. It's so touching. The ego is, in many ways, I think, very much like a child. And it doesn't matter what kind of attention you give it, even if it's negative attention. And I've learned very much so recently, this is very timely, your message today, that we use all kinds of tricks to keep ourselves separate from Baba. And guilt and remorse and shame are some of the ways that we create that distance. And there'll be days that go by where I might spend half the day at least, or not longer, saying, I'm so sorry, Baba, for something that I've said or done or thought or did. And to the point where at times I know Bob said, that's great. You want to make me happy. You don't want to disappoint me. And I appreciate and love you for that. But really, I'd like to hear you say something else. Yeah. And that something else might be, well, what can I do to make you happy today, Baba? Or how about just instead of saying I'm sorry, say I love you. And if you have issues with that, how about if I just say I adore you? So I think in the way that I'm coming to terms with it is that yes, we are all those things. We have the light and the dark, there are cracks in things so the light can get in. And the whole idea of forgiving ourselves, that cannot happen without, I think, forgetting. Now, I'm not saying minimizing the past, but we do have to forget it to a certain degree, in order to live with who we are and become what we are now, because we're not that same person anymore. So every day is an opportunity um, to keep that closeness, and don't use the guilt and remorse to create that separation. Be careful, because the ego will do it. If the ego gets a chance to have that attention, it will do it. So that's all, I guess.
Yeah, excellent. No, it's that self-preoccupation with, oh, I did this, I've done that, and I'm not so good at this, I screwed up there. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Leon?
So I think I could probably talk for hours on this trifecta. Um, I had an issue with my weight my entire life, as a child all the way into my adulthood. And in Yiddish, it was treated like what is called a shanda, which is a shame. And every member of my family had their own little tactic to shame me into it. And I felt incredibly guilty. And it happened to the little kid in me, it happened to the young adult, it happened to the adult in me. And it's just been a huge load to carry on around. And then the other day on my Bible Facebook, I read a story, and I'm going to just make it very cliff notey here, about a man who ran into an older man. And he said, "You were my teacher back in the day." And apparently something had gone down where a kid had come to school. He had been given a gift of a watch. And this other kid really wanted that watch. And when the other kid wasn't looking, he stole the watch. And when the kid realized the watch was stolen, he went to the teacher. So the teacher said, "Will somebody, whoever took it, please return it? No questions asked." Nobody came forward. There were different opportunities where they could do it anonymously. It didn't happen. So he brought all the kids in a circle and had everybody close their eyes. And he went into each person's pocket. And by the end, he said he gave the watch to the boy whose watch it was. And the boy who stole it, who just couldn't part with what he wanted that watch so bad, had such shame. And he grew up as a kid, as a young adult, with shame. But because that teacher never shamed him, he realized it was probably one of the most noble professions. So he himself became a teacher. And he said to the teacher, "Do you remember that incident?" He said, "Yes, I do." He said, "What do you remember about it?" He said, "I remember that I too closed my eyes when I went into each person's pocket. So I have no idea who took that watch."
Well,
So all this time when he would have teacher meetings with him, when he would look at him a certain way, he was sure he had that bullseye on him, but it didn't. And I haven't even shared this story with Terry. She's hearing it for the first time.
I've heard this story.
Oh, but she's apparently heard it too. And I'm looking at a lot of people's like nodding about it. Just when we give ourselves permission to not be led by the shame, because it's very true, just like what Jeff wrote, And just like the person right before me went about, we're not the same person. That we would not have done that same action with who we are today.
We learned.
We learn. It's the people who don't learn who are running our government. I mean, sorry.
That's not politics. You're talking about the government.
That's
Exactly.
government.
We're not talking politics. We're only talking about government. That's a very good distinction, one I could live with and not feel guilty by. Anyway, so I would like to, hopefully this gift of the story is relieving you in ways. It's like an onion. I've noticed the past few days, different things that I have felt horrifically paralyzed for because I had shame or guilt. I've been able to start letting go. So Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
That's a beautiful story. And I mean, what an inspired thing to actually have his own eyes closed.
He
Wow.
didn't want to know. You know, he knew that somebody couldn't help themselves.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Really inspired.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful, honey.
Jacko.
AJ.
Hey,
Yeah.
how you doing?
We're doing all
So-
right. Yeah.
Good, good. I'm currently facing a situation where I have to confront my feelings of guilt and shame and remorse, and around an interaction that I had with a student whose feelings I've hurt, and it's a difficult situation. It's been a difficult situation for me to really come to terms with and know how to handle myself, as parents have now become involved in the situation, and I have to, be vulnerable and open myself up to the parents, and at the same time, not allow myself to be bullied by the parents or have them sway what actually happened, and at the same time be open and vulnerable and feel remorse for the hurt that I did cause at the same time. And I've been getting a lot of support from people around me, and I thought how they've been offering reflections to me and offering their insights, and that's been helpful. And this late night chat is the perfect opportunity to actively be involved in self-discovery around this issue. And one of the things that I've just recently kind of helped me come to terms with what's been going on, and how to handle this so that I can be vulnerable and hear how I have caused hurt and allow for that relationship and closure to take place, is to really remember that is to put myself in a position of really accepting full blame for the incident and not trying to defend myself against the other person for any role they played in the incident. And in doing so, and taking full responsibility for what happened, it allows me to let go of the other person, or let go of my defense against the other person, and then fully surrender to Baba what has happened. And it's in that space of fully surrendering to Baba that I can feel remorse for what's happened, and I can, be more fully in relationship with Baba around it, and offer it up to him, and feel that remorse towards not just the student, but also to Baba himself for the actions that I've caused. And I found that to be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Would you be able to kind of share what this student did, or is that not um, something you want to kind of keep private?
Yeah, well, it's without getting into too many details, I found myself surprisingly in a situation where I was kind of overpowering a student before I could recognize what was happening in the middle of a class. And then in I attempted to once I recognized that I was kind of being overpowering, I backed off and tried to apologize after class, and try to make amends and try to repair the student teacher relationship. And only ended up apparently, from what I've understood from a parent's email, the apology only made the student feel worse. Um, and so again, uh, it kind of came in reflection with other people. It kind of came across that perhaps my apology was not really trying to say I'm sorry, but trying to make myself feel better about, you know, overpowering the student in a way that was harmful to them, and or hurtful to them. And that's that was a hard thing for me to accept, I think, at first. Um, but I can definitely feel the truth of that it was really, my apology was much more about me. And if that's the case, then of course that would make, the other person would feel that,
Yeah.
and only make the situation worse, as it were.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we've yeah, sorry that you got in that situation, because you're yeah, and that the parents are in on it. That's yeah. Well,
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing. I think it's a good thing. I mean, from a spiritual perspective, it's a good thing to find myself in this position, only because it really makes me have to take a step back and look at myself and try to understand where I was in myself while this incident happened. Um, and so from that perspective, I think it's good that it's happened, but at the same time, this is where then I think I have to, where my remorse comes in, that it's come at the cost of hurting somebody else's feelings. Um, and it's it's kind of it's I think it's interesting how that all plays out in Baba's timing and in Baba's work with us, how we can come across these incidents, um, and that they turn out to be good things in the end,
yeah.
but they are hard. And how do you feel good about something that has happened that's caused harm to another person, and be okay with that? It sounds kind of counterintuitive, um, but and this also causes me to be more open. The situation is forcing me, not even forcing me. It's an invitation for me to be more open, and I think that's part of the reason why it happened, is because I was being very closed and ego oriented in that moment, such that my heart was not there to recognize more quickly the hurt that I was causing. And so I'm grateful, I should say, maybe that's a better term. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be more open and heart centered, as a result of this experience.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, I'm reminded of something, but it's not directly related, but Alaba, you know, one of the Mandali, it was during the new life. He was supposed to do something. Baba asked him to do something, and he uh, forgot to do it. And he knew the next day Baba was going to really lay into him. And so what he did is he spent the whole evening asking Baba for forgiveness. I mean, you know, I mean, all into the night, asking Baba, please forgive me, please forgive me, and really felt it. And the next day, Baba didn't say anything. Normally Baba would lay into somebody, but he got Baba's forgiveness. So what's there to say? There was nothing for Baba to say. But sometimes we can do some of these things, get Baba's forgiveness, and I'm just saying this, it might not, but the parents may be fine and the kid may change their attitude. So it's I sometimes do that when I've done something that I know is going to backfire. I go to Baba and try to get it settled out of court, so to speak. Anyway, so I just throw that out as yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Because what
That's
Eric
good.
said there, but Eric's saying when I asked him what Baba's forgiveness was like, is when you do something wrong, selfish and unkind, the remorse you feel is the sign that you've already been forgiven. And they describe Baba's forgiveness as like the event is this if the event did not happen. All the sanskars connected to what happened get dissolved. So it's like it didn't even happen in creation in a way. So anyway, I've taken shelter in that truth uh, probably too many times. Okay. Okay, Rich there.
I want to make this quick, because I've already spoken, but yeah, Jacob, what I hear you saying, Jeff, and what I was thinking is that the only way for me to do anything with these energies, sanskaras, is to give them all to Baba, remember Baba. When it's immediate, like you, Jacob, in the middle of it, while you're in the middle of it, talking to these parents or seeing this student, try to remember Baba. It's like a return to wholeness. They want to return to being whole. You want to return to being whole. And the only real whole, WHOLE, is Meher Baba. That's all you've got. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. That's
Can I also jump something in? Hi, Jacob.
yeah.
I want to commend you for acknowledging your own behavior before anybody else did. That shows that you already started the process of learning. And it's when you don't acknowledge that you get into trouble. So I'd like to encourage that you give yourself a bit of a break here. And by all means, excavate why you acted in that way, but also honor the fact that you quieted yourself down quickly.
Yeah.
And you learned from it, which is all that it's about, is about learning and moving on. Also giving it to Baba, but finding peace within yourself. Getting really, I recently hurt someone's feelings and I had no idea that I had done it. And I did it in a way to make them feel better. And instead I hurt their feelings. And I didn't find out till months later. And it was such a great lesson for me, and I felt so happy that I could, even though they had pain, I didn't do it on purpose or anything, but I learned so much from it. And I was able to thank them for the lesson and come out the other side. And I don't know, there's just something about being able to, sometimes it has to hurt really bad to learn from it. It's, it's just the way that it is.
No
But
pain, no gain.
yeah, but Bubba definitely takes it away and shows you the brightness if you give him a chance.
Yeah. And to be that vulnerable and
Jay
open
Bubba.
to, as Jake has done within, I mean, that's commendable. I mean, like, who does that? You know, most people kind of justify that and, you know, but Baba has you do it in an entirely different way, a, you know, much more empathetic way of doing it. Yeah. Okay.
Gail?
Gail, you're muted. Yeah.
I hope I can consolidate this. Years ago, when my two boys, who are now 31 and 34, were preschoolers, their dad and I were going through a hard time. He is my husband. We are no longer together. And I started self-injuring, meaning I'd grown up in such a violent home that I certainly didn't want to hurt my children. I didn't want to poke the bear. And so that started something. And then he and I started going to counseling. And as it turned out, she had been my counselor, and she said we should start coming together. I didn't know that he was talking to her on the side, which is so egregious. And but he had talked to my sister, and he was telling people that I wasn't doing well. I was going through some training to become a Dale Carnegie instructor, which I did. And one of the things that the therapist wanted me to do was to take medicine. And I said, I will do that as soon as I get my credential. I just can't. I'm going through, learning so much. I'm working full time. I'm a mom. I can't. I'll absolutely do that. And so when I took the medicine, I didn't get out of bed for 6 months. It just flattened me. There was nobody that I could talk to. When I talked to the therapist, they had given me another medicine to try to amend that, and it was Wellbutrin. And I said, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt my children. And she said, oh, you won't. And I was afraid to take it any further because she's a mandatory self-reporter. I wasn't going to hurt. I mean, I didn't hurt my children, but when you think you're going to do that, it's terrifying. And so there wasn't anybody to talk to. He had talked to my sister and told her that he was taking charge of things and that I'd fallen apart. And so at one point, I was so frustrated that I took my fist and I punched it through the drywall in our bathroom. I took my fist and I punched it through one of the two double panes in the bathroom in the on the window in the bathroom. And so of course, again, that's self-injuring. And I was so embarrassed and humiliated that I had done that. I was just felt so terrible about it for years. And it's only came up this last, what is it now, spring, maybe in the fall. It came to the surface that I had been diagnosed with major depressive disorder with rage and anger, RA. And I thought, why would my current psychiatrist say that? And then I realized it was the previous psychiatrist that I was seeing at that time. And both my therapist and my psychiatrist were piss poor on a good day and worse. I mean, to have two people that I was talking to and could not get any help. And my husband basically didn't want to get divorced. He didn't mind having a horrible marriage. he had moved heaven and earth to get me to abort our second child after going through fertility treatments to get pregnant with the first child. And so it was just a miserable situation. And through the fact that, actually through the nighttime arti, through the fact that I've just had support there, I was able to go back and look at all these things and look at so much my regret and realize I was doing everything a person could do. I was talking to a professional. I was talking to a second professional. I told my best friend, who obviously was convoluted and she didn't understand. She was a minister. She just didn't understand. And to this day doesn't understand what happened. And as a result, I told my Al-Anon group, I told my Al-Anon girlfriends, I told my whole group what I did, because I was so embarrassed that I needed to get the shame off of me. And just to be able to say this to this group tonight, that in hindsight, I can see that I was going through a really bad situation with a really bad person who was worse to my older son, Wilson, than he was to me. We won't get into that. But I finally am able to just talk about it and say, okay, yeah, so I broke some stuff. I do, I am glad that I can look at that. I didn't, it was a bad idea to self-injure, but I kind of didn't know what else to do. How I grew up is I didn't want to hurt the kids. I mean, so anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's off my chest now.
Yeah.
And I can see that I was in a bad situation, and that now, Baba, and it's good to hear about the remorse, because I had felt so much remorse about it. And I'm glad that it's no longer a secret and that I can live with it now.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wonderful. And this is how Baba does. He pulls this stuff out of us and gets us kind of more in a balanced state. I mean, there's a lot of stuff under the surface sometimes. Yeah. So,
Ron?
Ronnie.
Yeah, I wanted to sing a Baba quote, something that Baba said about forgiveness. I think it really fits in well. Another aspect from Baba's point of view about forgiveness. People ask God for forgiveness, but since God is everything and everyone, who is there for him to forgive? Who is there for him to forgive? Forgiveness of the created was already there in his act of creation. But still, people ask God's forgiveness, and he forgives them. He forgives them. But they, instead of forgetting that for which they asked forgiveness, forget that God has forgiven them, and instead remember the things they were forgiven, and so nourish the seed of wrongdoing, and it bears its fruit again. And so nourish the seed of wrongdoing, and it bears its fruit again. Again and again, they plead for forgiveness, and again, the Master says, I forgive. Again and again, and again, and again, and again, And again the master says, I forgive.
Wonderful, Ronnie. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like there's no limit to this forgiveness the way you're.
I added that last line. I just drew it out.
Oh,
So you did.
beautiful. No, that's a wonderful quote. It
I know.
really,
I really like that quote.
yeah. And if you just keep dwelling on it, like I say, sometimes you're going to do it again. That's the
Mhm.
thing. Okay.
Tony,
I think Ralph hasn't spoken yet. He's
So Ralph, give it a shot.
Yeah, this is, I need participant cooperation to share what I'd like to share. I'm asking Richard if he can allow us to highlight the photograph of Baba behind him. And if he can give us a view without inconveniencing himself too much.
He has to kind of tilt his computer there a little bit.
Baba's washing a man's feet.
Yeah.
He's pouring water and not looking at what he's doing with his hands. His eyes are cast to the side, almost over his left shoulder. And what is that expression? So is somebody fixing to feel remorse? Is Baba upset, or has something caught his attention? Can we bring the
Yeah.
picture, raise
Yeah,
it?
we can see it. No, I think Bob, something caught his attention as he was.
You don't think someone has displeased him? He looks kind of peeved.
Yeah, I
We were
mean,
talking about when we try to get self-approval or examine our motives, take inner picture of Baba and see how Baba's feeling about us. See if we can get an idea of how Baba's feeling about where we're at in
right. Yeah,
our considerations. Yeah.
yeah.
But
No,
I don't
that's
know that that's what that is, or if the intensity of the work is that, and that, but what would have taken his attention away from something that he usually gives such itinerant attention to, like in that case.
yeah.
See how intent Pendu is in the background. Look at his expression. He's
Yeah,
very
this was happened in 1954 when Baba was it was a darshan and
incredible weeks. Yeah.
oh yeah, Baba wanted to bathe a leper, and this was the one that was left back at the leper colony. I guess it's a leper, and so and then someone had a camera and it took that little scene. You see that in the movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
They-
Tony, you're
okay. So
and getting kind of late, so we'll just yeah. But
I posted something. I'd like to read it and then say something about it. That
yeah,
when after Jacob was sharing, that I think it's really important to ask Baba, why did I do that? What was going on in me? What was that all about? I think it's really important to pay attention to whatever it is that life is calling one's attention to now while the iron is hot. And I have found that Baba never, in my experience, never fails to answer. When I ask a question like that, the answer in one shape, form, or another comes very clearly and exactly tempered to the need of the moment and the capacity to grasp what the next step is internally. Um, I said I wasn't going to share anything personal, but I can't help it. No, it's just I feel that this is what this is about, being vulnerable and open here. My wife and I have a certain type of fight that 25 years now that comes up from time to time, and it's about nothing except total misunderstanding. But it's misunderstanding where then you both dig your heels in on it. And instead of getting clarity, it gets worse. And that happened to be going on lately. And it had been gone for a while. So at some point, I asked, and it's going to sound to you, it might not mean much, but I looked up what was happening astrologically, and I know that Saturn has been on my moon for about a year on and off, but it was to the degree, to the minute on my moon, which is relations with women, among other things. That's a key thing. And I remember the last time 28 years ago it was there and what I was going through. And 28 years before that when it was there and what I was going through. And it was really, in that case, it was really nice to know that Baba was saying, hang in there. You've been through this before. You know how it goes. Accept the sense of restriction and limitation. But at other aspects of asking that, I'm seeing things in me. Again, it was through the astrology, which I've been doing since I was a kid. But when you're talking about your own chart, it's really easy not to see what's right in front of your eyes. And so I got to see certain things in my chart, in our chart, in me that it was like I am not the innocent party aggrieved at the person who's got it all wrong, and it's not, and not vice versa either. But I find when I ask, Baba gives me something that I can go to him with and take the next step and open up to the next piece of wholeness, I guess I'd call it. So yeah, I wanted to share that with Jacob, but then I felt I really need to share how relevant it is to myself, which is why I brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Hey, we got Denver coming in here.
Yeah, I know we're out of time. I'll try to make this really short, but I've been thinking about an event that occurred to me when I was maybe 6 years old. And so a long, long time ago, but it's one that I've never been able to forget. When I had two friends when I was a kid, and we would kind of, play together and wander down the alley looking for things, and just we'd having a great time. And one day, I said, my one childhood friend was Jimmy, and the other one was Ernie. And I said to Jimmy, "Let's ditch Ernie." And I walked back and hit Ernie in the stomach with my fist, and immediately felt so badly about it, and I made him cry. And I apologized to him instantly. I felt so badly. But what did that do? I mean, and now I have no idea whatever happened to Ernie. I'm not in touch with Ernie. There's no way I can make amends. There's no way I can say I'm sorry and really mean it, and I would. But so this brings up this, you mentioned unworthiness, and there's a fine line between remorse and guilt. And this memory, this pops up in my head still occasionally at 78 years old, for heaven's sake. And I can't get rid of it. I can't do anything about it. And over the years, it's probably caused a certain amount of unworthiness that just does not go away. These things become habitual in the mind somehow. So I don't know. I'll stop there.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up, and this is what Baba, trained me at, is in the course of the day or in weeks, or year, these embarrassing things or hurtful things we've done in the past, they get triggered, and Baba basically trained me, send my love and my name toward that memory. Anytime it comes up, do it. And these get triggered, just in the course of things. And over time, after doing this for whatever, 50 years or something like that, I've changed my whole relationship to my past.
So repeat again, send my name and my love.
Say that again?
Send my name and my love. And I missed
Toward that memory, that
toward the
cringe,
memory. Ah,
memory that makes you, because otherwise, if you don't, that memory just gets another layer of confirmation on it. So it's kind of undoing that by sending love to that and his name. It's after decades and decades, my relationship to my past has changed.
yeah.
Because
Oh,
instead of cringing each time, I send Bob's love and name toward that.
thank
Yeah.
you.
And little by little, over time, your relationship to these kind of events in your past start to lose their power, and the power to cast a shadow on the present. That's what Bob kind of trained me at. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Santa Barbara.
Yes. I was going to say to Bob and maybe to everybody, I was sharing something with Jeff the other day, and he said, well, you can, I said, I can't resolve and ask forgiveness because that person's not in my life. And he said, you can ask forgiveness and you can resolve it. Go into a quiet place and think of Baba and think of that person and think of what you're feeling and want to express and do it with that person, with Baba witnessing it, and ask their forgiveness or, talk to them and express your remorse. And I thought, yeah, I could do that like a ritual, and with Baba there, which would be great. And so, yeah, I was going to say that, but then Jeff so beautifully said it also. And the other thing I wanted to remind everybody of something, there's a line that Jeff wrote, remorse is of the heart, and the heart is backed by the soul. So we're all already talking about remorse. So Baba's already given this great gift to us. We're moving through this old guilt paradigm, and we're in remorse, and we're already coming from the heart, and the heart's our soul, our true self. So this is already a gift that Baba has given us through all of these painful experiences that we've had. And that's what I love about our beloved, that everything he does is from love, even though it can be painful. I think it's important for me to remember that. And I want to invite you guys that everything Baba does is from love and to help us to get closer to him.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Yeah. And that reminds me too. People come here, they'll be here at the center and they never resolve the issue, say, with their parent, and the parent has died.
Mm.
And what I say is that they're still here. Your parent is here. Their heart is still here. You can, whatever you wished you had said can be said now because the heart and their soul is still here. And so a lot of these things, you think, oh man, I missed the opportunity. Or there are people that are at a great distance, you're not likely to see them again. You can, contact them and make amends at a distance. And it's not like their heart is shut. Our hearts are open to each other. So a lot of things can be resolved without even the physical presence of the people, and I've had to do that because some people I have been unkind to, and I don't even know where they are geographically. I don't know their address or I can't contact them, but I can contact them inwardly.
Mm.
We're all in this moment. We're all nearby, and that's been a saving grace for me. Baba has made that possible. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we don't have, you know, Goer Mobed here to read a final quote. Let's
I
have
have one.
okay, let's have a few. Yeah. Yeah, read that
I'll
and then,
read it and then we'll have silence. Okay,
yeah.
this is
Okay.
short. This is a short, roomy poem.
Yeah.
Burning with longing fire, wanting to sleep with my head on your doorsill. My living is composed only of this trying to be in your presence. Burning with longing fire, wanting to sleep with my head on your doorsill. My living is composed only of this trying to be in your presence.
Beautiful. Let's have a few moments of silence. Yay, Baba. Well, thank you for sharing. You know, I mean, it's very helpful. I was surprised there are more people don't, you know, have these something that they've done in the past that's still affecting them profoundly in the present or still.
Oh, Jeff, when this is over, everybody will be guilt-ridden with total shame, and
Yeah.
you'll get lots of emails about having a redo.
Yeah, yeah, because you know, I know you guys are a bunch of rascals and scoundrels. You know, something you should have some remorse here. I don't know. It's beautiful though. Baba has helped us so in so many ways, so you don't have to drag around our past.
Jeff, you know, it's funny you said that because I was thinking this is better than a Catholic confessional. I think a lot of people shared very vulnerable, painful things. I
Yeah,
don't know what kind of blood and guts you wanted, but I
yeah.
think that
Well, no,
everyone
I was
came
just,
through.
oh yeah,
Good,
no,
the
no,
real stuff, real
yeah,
pain.
no, what they shared, yeah. But like I say, there are a whole lot of other people here. You
Mm,
know, that's what I was thinking. But
oh,
yeah,
I
we
see.
can always revisit this and that. But I'll remember which names, you know, which people didn't share anything, and when we do this in a year from now, you know, we'll kind of lay into these people. And yeah. Anyway, thank you really for it. And I mean, you know, Baba really wants us to be free of our past, and so we can enjoy the present moment, you know, more unencumbered. And he's going to make it happen. That's his goal. Anyway, thank you, everything. Thank you, Shima.
I don't see Nasreen who can give us the goodbye benediction here, you know?
Yeah, I know. Nasreen is just, I don't know what she's doing. She's just, you know, hiding out somewhere. Maybe Bashir could be the one to say the J Avatar Mir Baba Ki J. Let's see, lift up Bashir. This is
He's
Nicole's cat.
he's in the next room.
Oh, in the
He
next
gave
room.
up on me.
Okay, okay. Anyway, oh yeah. Oh, let me mention this. I'll send out an email for next week, but next Sunday I thought if people could bring something to share, because it's in honor of Baba's birthday. You know, a poem, a song, a joke, a story, a painting you've done, whatever, to bring something to share for to entertain Baba with. So I will write that up and all that.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
sorry. I have asked you this so many times, but I still don't get any email. Who was I supposed to? And I think I wrote Angela,
Ah,
and
oh,
I don't.
Jay Sema's right there. He'll put his email address in the chat box, and he and Angela are the main people who know how to do that.
Okay, okay.
Good that you asked.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you can go to the recording, and I think they put the email when it says more, like that little description, then they put more, and it's there as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but get Jay Sema. He'll so those go out to you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Any loose change here? Anything?
I have a short anecdote that
Yeah.
I wanted to share, but we ran out of time. This was way back when I was just before I actually heard of Baba. One of the things that was on my mind was all the ill feelings that had passed in my first 21, 22 years. And I was thinking that I need to let it go. I just had this feeling I should just forgive myself for all the bad things I've ever done to everybody, and forgive everybody who had ever done anything that was harmful or hurtful to me. And so I felt like I did. Now, one of the last people that I saw before I left college, I had a falling out with. He was actually a very close friend, but we had a business dealing, and I thought he did something dishonest, and I really laid into him, and I gave him a hard time about it. And when he came up in my mind when I was forgiving people, and I was thinking, oh my God, I don't even know if that guy actually did what I was accusing him of and stuff. But what could I do? He was at college, and I was back in Miami, Florida. So at one point, I ran into his roommate. That he had a roommate at the time. I didn't know the roommate that well, but I knew him enough to know that he was his roommate. And he had just happened to live a few blocks away from where I was living. So I went and visited him. He invited me to come over. And it was either the first time I went to visit or the second time. He got a call from this guy that I had, had the bad business dealing with, and really said things that I shouldn't have said, and I felt badly about. And he said, "Oh, you'll never guess who's here," because this guy didn't know anything about this falling out or anything. He thought, hey, this is one of your best friends who happens to be here. So he put him on the phone with me, and all I could do, I didn't know what to say to this guy, because the last time I had seen him, he must have felt very awkward about it too. But I just said hello and, acted friendly somehow, but I didn't really engage much with him. And I felt that this was Baba giving me the opportunity to just connect and wipe out the thing without really saying I'm sorry or any of that kind of thing. And 2 weeks later, I went back and visited with that guy again, and heard that fellow had died from an overdose of drugs.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think Baba just saw the opportunity and allowed this thing to, because I also wanted to say that I think one of Baba's favorite things that he said that he loves to do is work things out for us.
Oh yeah.
We can't work them out, but he knows how. He loves doing it. So we, giving him the opportunity to work it all out as
this is the very quote that Darwin wrote this down as Baba was dictating it. Don't worry, let me do the worrying. I enjoy working things out.
Yeah, there you go.
There is no need for you and I to worry. If you're going to worry, then I won't worry. But that line, I enjoy working things out. Baba actually enjoys working these things out. It's not burdening him. Not to not give it to him is withholding something he enjoys doing. And as I always say, he's got a lot more options in dealing with problems than we do.
Yes.
So,
Excellent.
Very good.
anyway, see you guys.
Baba.
And
Hey, Baba.
yeah, much,
Say
much
Baba.
love, and see you as we approach Baba's birthday. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba.
Hey, Bob, everybody.
Yay, Papa.